Hello and welcome back. We are in day 11 of our Mule advanced training. In earlier lecture, we understood how to secure your APIs using OAuth policy in API Manager. And also, we have used Okta as our identity provider, and I have clearly explained you the steps on how to secure your API. But now, if you want to consume a OAuth2 secured API in Mule, how do we achieve the same? In earlier lecture, I have consumed that OAuth2 secured API using Postman. But now we are going to see how to secure that API using a Mule application. It is actually very easy if you know a small configuration to be done. So let us get started. So to tell you, this is my application on Cloud Hub. And for this application, I have configured this JWT validation token already. So if I try to actually hit my API, this is a base URL. And from Postman, if I try to hit the API, let us see. It is saying 400 bad request. And this is the body. JWT token is required. So to hit that URL, we need a JWT token. Let us see how we can actually get a JWT token in our Mule application and how to hit that API. I'm creating a new Mule project. I'll give a name, consuming OAuth2 secured API. Okay, finish. And you know how to consume a REST API using HTTP request component. Let us try to consume it. I'll configure the request configuration and the host. What is the host? This is my host in Cloud Hub. Okay, and the port is 80, and the base path is API. Then what is the rest of the URL? /restaurants/1. Here's the one. A very simple one. Let us first try to test to consume it without token. Let us see what will happen. I'll just create a listener /restaurants. Let us see. I'll deploy this application and try to give a request to this flow. And here we are trying to consume that secured API. Let us see what will happen if I give a request. We will try to get a token and send it. Okay, the application got deployed. Now, if I try to give a request to localhost 8081/restaurants, I got 500 status code, and in the body, I can see bad request as I got earlier. Now, my application is not able to access the secured API. So what we need to do? We need to tell to this request component how to get a token. Okay, I will edit this request configuration. And here, if you see, authentication by default, it is null, none. I want to send a token in the request. Oh, there is nothing like OAuth2 authentication. By default, in Anypoint Studio, you are not having OAuth2 module. If you are having OAuth2 module in this project as a dependency, you can see that OAuth2 authentication also here. Right now, it is not there. So what I will do is I'll cancel this. I'll go to Mule palette, search in Exchange, and I will select OAuth2. You can see there is something called as OAuth module, OAuth2 provider module. No, I'll just select OAuth. Yes, you can see OAuth module Mule 4. This is the one which I need to add as dependency. Okay, done, finished. So it is added as a dependency. Now here you can see, right? Now if I go to my request component and try to edit the configuration, here under authentication, if I see the drop down, now I can see the authorization code grant, client credentials code grant, etc. Now I want to consume this API using client credentials grant. Normally, whenever it is application to application, we use client credentials grant only, right? So we need to actually configure client ID, secret, and what all scopes are required for this token. So actually, if you remember in my Anypoint API manager, when I was configuring this JWT token, I configured that this token should contain a claim called as restaurant audience claim, right? So this should be a valid token given by this server. Actually, I've given this keys, and I said I wanted to validate only this audience claim scope. So we can even configure custom scopes as well by adding validate this one. But let us see how to validate only this particular claim. Okay. So this is configured already. Now we need to actually specify the client ID and secret. Actually in Okta, oh, it is signed out. I'll log in again. Actually in Okta, under client applications, I have this client application created, and I have configured this client with client credentials as well. Here, client credentials are there. I'll copy this client credentials, client ID. I'll copy, paste it here, and client secret. I'll copy, paste it here, and I want my token, whatever token it is obtaining. I want to actually request for a scope. What was the scope actually? If you remember, while creating my server in last video, this is my server. See, the audience is whatever is expected, a restaurant API audience, and scopes. If I see the scopes, I configured a scope called as restaurant API scope. So I want to say that this token should contain this scope. Then the token manager, actually the tokens will be kept inside object store. If you want the tokens to be stored in object store, I can select token manager as global reference. I can create a token manager which internally uses object store. Okay, but of course you can configure it. Normally we configure object store. Right now, just for testing purpose, I will just leave token manager as none. Okay, and the next thing is token URL, from where, for which endpoint, from which endpoint we should get the token. Again, I'll go to my server, and this is my server. Here is the metadata URI of my server. I'll copy and I'll open it again. Yeah, this is the URL. This is the metadata of my server, and here is the token endpoint. I'll copy this token endpoint, configure it. Okay, done. Rest all, we can take the defaults. I'm just saying okay. So I've told to this request configuration how to get a token using the client ID and secret. And while getting a token, what scope to request for. Okay. So I configured. Now let me restart this. I'll stop and start. Okay, the application got deployed. Now let me try to hit this URL. Hey, I got the response. So I'm able to consume the secured URL. So just for testing, I will go to this request configuration and edit. And if I try to give a wrong client ID and secret, I'll just delete this 7. Okay, and save it. Let it be redeployed. If I give a wrong client ID, what happen? Will I be able to get the token and hit? Let's see. Okay, the application got redeployed. Now, if I try to give a request, oh, I got the response as 401 unauthorized. And if I see down, it is saying invalid value for client ID. So internally, it is using that client ID. Okay. So fine. Now you understood how to consume a secured REST API, API which is secured by OAUTH2, right? That's all. I will see you in next lecture tomorrow. Bye.